This is Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. Steve Bannon had his motion for new trial denied by a federal district court judge, Judge Nichols, in the District of Columbia. This arising out of the guilty verdict for the criminal charges against Steve Bannon for contempt of Congress. Recall there were 2 counts of contempt of Congress, one for Bannon not responding to the subpoena to give testimony, another count for Bannon not providing documents. So Bannon's sentencing will now be scheduled in October. The exact date of the sentencing is October 21. He faces a minimum of 30 days in jail, a maximum of 2 years in jail, 2 separate counts with a 1-year max for the obstruction count. What the judge said in the order denying Bannon's motion for new trial, the judge said, defendant's arguments relating to jury instructions, while certainly well preserved, do not demonstrate a serious miscarriage of justice, U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols said on Friday. And one of the things that Bannon was arguing here, number one is that he should be entitled to have all these additional subpoenas out to various lawmakers to try to make them testify, which the judge disagreed with. I mean, the issue of contempt of Congress is, were you issued a subpoena? Did you show up? Yes or no? And Bannon wanted to turn this into a circus, which the judge would not allow. And one of the other arguments that Bannon tried to make is, again, this executive privilege claim and advice of counsel claim. So one of the things Bannon claimed is that I didn't respond to the subpoena because of the advice that I got from my attorney, who believed that there could be potentially executive privilege here. And again, Bannon didn't work for the White House, okay? He was a podcaster. There would be no valid and legitimate claim to executive privilege. And what the court also had is that there is no advice of counsel defense when it comes to a contempt of Congress charge. And they actually relied on a precedent within the DC Circuit Court regarding a mobster who tried to use that defense a few decades ago, which is always interesting to me that the precedent when we come to obstruction is mobster, is mafia, because that's the way MAGA operates. And the reason that you have all of the obstruction when it comes to the mafia is because they do things like kill witnesses and hide the records to try to cover up the crimes at issue there. And one of the things there that the mobster tried to do was claim an advice of counsel. That was rejected there, and that was precedent here, because one of the things Bannon wanted to say was, I relied on the president and I relied on the advice of my lawyer. And again, Trump isn't the president anymore. So you worked for the president early in his administration. Then you became a podcaster. There is no podcaster immunity here at all. And trying to tie some of these concepts together, though, too, it's this abuse of executive privilege as well. Remember, the executive privilege is held by the current administration. The law couldn't be clearer on that. There's a whole line of cases that begin, when some of these issues were, dating back to our founding, but, that were strengthened with all of the stuff that Nixon was trying to do. And there's a Nixon versus GSA case, but it's very well established. Executive privilege is the privilege of the current administration for deliberation. And because they're actively deliberating. And the idea is that we don't want to chill those current deliberations, right? Because that is important for the operation of our executive branch. But once you're no longer the president, you don't have an executive privilege. But Trump and these MAGAs, they try to operate like they're kings and they're emperors, and there is no rule of law. And that a president, after they leave the White House, is still an emperor and a king. And you see how they try to abuse executive privilege, even in, the Bannon case. And they try to claim that Trump finally waived executive privilege leading up to Bannon's criminal trial where he was found guilty a few months back. But you didn't have executive privilege to give. It wasn't something that you have. You're not the president anymore. So what do I think is going to happen here? Bannon is going to appeal to the DC Circuit, which is the Court of Appeals above. the Court of Appeals, following their own precedent and following the law, is going to uphold the convictions. And then it's going to go before the Supreme Court. And with a radical right extreme court, we're going to have to watch and see what the radical right extreme court does there, extreme Supreme Court does there. And will they, like they've done countless times, try to change the precedent to provide these expansive views to protect people like Steve Bannon and to provide views on, Donald Trump having enhanced executive privilege. Who knows what this radical right extreme court is going to do. Although one of the factors kind of reining them in is that Trump isn't the president anymore. And so whatever their rulings are will impact necessarily Democratic presidents in the future. And so that's something that they are going to have to be very, very focused on. But we'll keep you updated on more developments here. This has been Mycellus from the MeidasTouch Network. Make sure you hit the subscribe button now. Hit the subscribe button, please. We've just grown to over 500,000 subscribers. We so appreciate you. I'm so grateful for your support. Let's keep on growing this movement together for pro-democracy.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.